Schönen guten Abend, Nordrhein-Westfalen, hier sind wir, NRW Live mit der Late Night. Ja, die Songs bzw. ja, Welthits kann man schon sagen. Living Next Door to Alice, Stumbling In oder auch Midnight Lady wurden durch seine raue Stimme zu wahren Evergreens. Die Rede ist von Chris Norman. Er ist quasi im Rampenlicht groß geworden. Sowohl seine Eltern als auch seine Großeltern standen auf der Bühne mit der Band Smokie. Natürlich wurde er in den 70er Jahren als Sänger und Gitarrist weltberühmt. Nach der Trennung von Smokie machte er als Solosänger weiter und landete Hit für Hit. Und sein neuestes Werk, Crossover, hier vorne steht es auf dem Tisch, kommt morgen in den Handel. Ich freue mich total, dass er hier ist. Thank you so much for being on the show. Chris Norman, thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Crossover, that's the brand new album. That's actually 40 years after launching your successful career with Smokie. You return with a brand new solo album, 12 tracks on the album.
Yeah. There's 12 tracks plus a bonus track, which was a song which was actually called 40 Years On.
Yeah.
Which was a song that I wrote for the Smokie, because they put out a Smokie collection a few months ago, and that was going to be, for the anniversary of the 40 years, and they asked if is there any new songs. So I wrote that, because I was doing the album at the time, I was recording my album then, and I just wrote this song called 40 Years On, which they put on that, but I said, I want to put on my album too. Yeah. So I just put that on as a bonus track, because it's a remix, but it's the same song that's been out already, but it's just a bonus track. The main album is 12 tracks, like you said, yeah.
So a little bit of Smokie comes into play as well.
Just to give a nod to the 40 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Long time. What I think is very interesting about the new album is you decided not to follow any kind of style on this one. It just worked on any song, no matter what direction. What was the key thing you were looking for in finding the right songs?
Well, I mean, it's just a case of whenever I've start to think about or write songs, I usually do it just after I've done another album or the last album. I start, without thinking about it, just putting down song ideas for future.
Yeah.
And then when I get towards doing a new album, I go through all the list of songs that I've got, the ideas that I've got, and usually I filter them out. Then I usually think, well, I like that song, but it's not for me, like whatever. And this time I didn't do that. This time I just thought, well, if I've written it, it's me, because it came from me. So, and I didn't want to filter anything out, so I just took the songs that I liked the best, whether or not they be one style or another, and then recorded them. So consequently, the album's got some more contemporary stuff on it. It's also got some rock. It's also got some slightly country. It's got skiffle.
Okay.
So there's lots of different ballads. There's different types of songs on there. So I went with it. I thought, don't filter them out. Just do the songs you like the best. Yeah. And then I call the album Crossover because it's
the appropriate name for
crossing over. Yeah, because
absolutely. When we thinking about the creation of the new album, I think you said in an interview once, it almost felt like being in a normal job, starting every day just after breakfast, working on the new album.
Somebody asked me, do I do it like as a routine, or do I just go in when I feel like it at night or whatever? And basically, I do kind of do it as a routine. Once I start working on an album, I'm writing and demoing every day, so that I sort of discipline myself, because there's nobody else there to tell me, go on, get in there. So I just I don't get up early anyway. I'm not an early morning person, so I usually get up and then go for a run or whatever, have something to eat, and usually I aim to get started about midday, and then I'll be in the studio recording and writing until whenever I think that's enough for the day. It can be a few hours. It can be I can finish at 6. I can be working till 2 in the morning. It depends. If it's something I'm really into, continue. And if sometimes you get sort of like a thing, I think I'll leave it until tomorrow and come back to it, which works too. But I tend to do it every day. And then sometimes I have to go off and do something else, like if I've got a gig somewhere, and I go away for a couple of days, come back, and then I have to get back into it again.
So where did it all take place? What was that all at home?
I start off in my own studio, writing and demoing. And this album, I actually did a lot of the demo stuff I used on the album, because I liked the way it sounded already. I just needed to replace certain things and do some, but I played a lot of the stuff on it because of that, because I'd already played bass and guitars and a lot of stuff, and even the vocal, I used a lot of those things already. When I went into the bigger studio, I got a few extra musicians in to play things extra. But most of it was stuff that I'd done already, you know.
Yeah, the album, the opener is Waiting, and when that came out, it wasn't actually a single in the stores. You decided, or you went straight ahead and did a worldwide online distribution. Is that how it's done these days?
It seems to be kind of like a waste of time now. I mean, some countries don't even release singles anymore, like in Scandinavia or Denmark. They don't, I don't think.
It's all digitally.
Yeah, it's all digital downloads, and so it just seems that the last album, I think I did put out an actual single, but there was more downloads than there was singles sold. So it just seems like a waste of time. I think people who want to buy an actual CD they'll buy the album, and if they just like the odd song, they'll download it. So that seems to be the modern way of doing it. And most of the record shops in England, anyway, have closed now.
Yeah,
so
it's the same here in Germany. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I think there's only one major one that's left, and so you know, it's different. The world's different than it used to be. You know.
Shooting for the video, I think, took place in Manchester, and you could see your son Paul. He's playing the drums.
Yeah.
Who else took part in the creation of the song? Video?
The guitar player is in my band, Jeff Carline. He's on there, and his daughter, and a friend who's also a guitar player. But I called him and said, "Do you want to come and play bass on this?" Because all my band are all further away. I mean, some of the band are German. One of them was American. She's just left. I've got another one who's English. But it was easier just to get people who I knew who were local to Manchester. You know, I just called them and said, "I'm doing a video next week. Do you want to come down?" And so that was just people I knew. And Paul was over in England anyway. Actually, he was in Scotland. And I rang him in Scotland. I said, "When are you coming down to England?" And he said, "Next, whatever it was." And I said, "Well, do you want to come and do this video and play the drums?" And he went, "I don't know."
well, he did, and we'll actually...
Well, he plays the drums anyway. He's a good drummer. Yeah. But he said, "Oh, I don't know if I want to be on a video with you." But he did. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chris Norman. Wir werden uns gleich dieses Video natürlich mal in aller Ausführlichkeit anschauen von seinem brandneuen Album Crossover, ab morgen im Handel erhältlich. Bleibt definitiv bei uns hier an der NRW Live Late Night. Thank you. Waiting vom aktuellen Album von Chris Norman, Crossover. Morgen kommt es in den Handel. Ich glaube, mittlerweile ist es sein 20. Album sogar. Werden wir gleich auf jeden Fall auch nochmal fragen. Ich freue mich immer noch total, dass er hier ist. Chris Norman, thank you so much. We just saw the video, Waiting. That's the album opener. And just after the release, which is going to be on tomorrow, there's a big tour coming up. I think it starts in November. Big 18-date tour in Germany.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because the best thing when you do a new album is you've got a new bunch of songs to sing in your set, you know. And I always enjoy that because I would hate to be one of these acts that just goes and plays oldies, you know. Although I do that. I do the old ones too. But it's nice to have a bunch of fresh songs to put in the set. So I'm looking forward to it. And we go to Bulgaria before that, as we're doing a few shows in Bulgaria, about 4, I think. And then from there we go into Germany, and then we're there for 18 days.
Yeah.
And I'm really, it should be good.
And especially here in Germany, there's always been really like the highest interest in your solo albums here. And even the greatest success, I think, with Smokie you had in this country. So can you say like Germany has become really a home away from home for you?
It is for me. I mean, when I first came to Germany, back in 75, the first time I ever came here, because you know what it's like when you first have your first hit single, which was back then. You haven't done anything. I mean, we played a lot all over the UK for years before we had a hit, but then suddenly you get a hit and they say, we want you to go do this and that, one of that, and you're travelling in all different countries. And I'd never been to Germany before. In 75 I came, and it was like a foreign land for me, because people talked in a different language. I had no German at school, so I didn't understand anything. I still don't understand that much now. And it was just like, you know, felt like I was in a foreign country. But I've been coming so many times now since then that it doesn't feel like that at all. It feels like a second home. I know it pretty well. I've got a lot of friends here. There's some cities I know better than others where I know areas and stuff. So it's great. And I don't know why. I mean, with Smokie, basically, we were having a lot of hits everywhere. And in England, we had a lot of hits. But in Germany, say if we had a record like that got to number 3 in the charts in England, or number 5, it would be number 1.
It would be number 1 here.
And I don't know why. And when we were touring, we were doing theatres, big theatres in England, like 3,000 seaters theatres. But here we were doing arenas.
Yeah.
So there was always that bit more. So I don't know why. I really don't, but it's great. I love it. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. We love you here in Germany, absolutely. Chris Norman and Smokie. Since we're talking already about Smokie, I think the original lineup was completed back in '73 when Ron Kelly left the band, and then Pete Spencer, he took over.
That's right.
But there were so many different band names involved. A lot of name changing was going on until I think the original line came in '74. Why was that?
I guess when you start a group when you're young, because we started at school and we were like 15, and you think what we're going to call ourselves. So you go through different names. We were called. I think we started off as the Yen. God knows why.
I remember Elizabethans.
Elizabethans.
Yeah.
That was a terrible name, wasn't it? Yeah, we were called the Elizabeth. Why we call ourselves? I don't know why. So that lasted for a little while, not too long, and then we changed it to Kindness because that was during the Flower Power thing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like cool, everything was love and peace and happiness. So we call ourselves Kindness, and then you're right, '74. When we signed to Rack Records, actually, we changed it to Smokie.
I think it was spelled differently before, right? It was like
spelled
E-Y?
Originally it was spelled, with an E-Y on the end, which was fine until we released our first album in America. And then we had problems with Smokey Robinson.
Yeah.
Because in America, the radio station just call him Smokie. And his, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles becomes, and here's Smokie's new one. So we come out, we're like Smokie too, and they're going, who? We're not having another Smokie, And Smokey Robinson and his management and everything didn't like it either. So we were either going to have to go to court and have and I think somebody came up with this thing, so well, what if we change the spelling to IE, then people know the difference. And they went, oh, well, that's okay, we can do that. So we had to pull back all the albums and change the spelling.
And to relabel everything.
And relabel everything, yeah.
I mean,
we've been IE ever since.
But from '75 on, you guys really dominated the charts in the UK and throughout the world. There were like a string of hit singles around. If You Think You Know How to Love Me, of course, the classic Living Next Door to Alice. I think everyone knows that in Germany, throughout the world. Or Mexican Girl, It's Your Life, Lay Back in the Arms of Someone. What was the Smokie, if you want, secret of success?
Well, we were with a great producer called Mike Chapman, and Chin and Chapman were a songwriting team of the day who'd written lots of hits, and they had a knack for writing hits. In fact, when we were with them, we were always trying to compete to try and, because we always wrote like 80% of everything we recorded, but they always got the single, and partly because they were successful, so the record company wanted to go with that, but also because they wrote such great, catchy tunes.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons we had, but we were always trying to, we did it eventually. We got our own songs out as singles eventually, but they had lots of great songs. So that was part of it. And for some reason, we were the right for the time, I guess. We weren't glam rock, and we weren't, I don't know what we were. We weren't anything really. We were kind of in between. We kind of based ourselves, before we had any hits, we always based ourselves on more like American things like the Eagles, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Creedence Clearwater. We were that kind of a band live, sort of electric and harmonies, or acoustic and harmonies, and then that's kind of what we became when we had hits. And then we went a bit more schmaltzy, a bit more with things like Alice, and that we went a bit more commercial, I guess.
Well, but I got video loaded up here from 1975. The typical Smokie Sound just for you. Nochmal für euch natürlich noch ein Song von Smokie, wollen wir selbstverständlich nochmal spielen, aus dem Jahre 1975. Hier sind sie nämlich, If You Think You Know How to Love Me. 1975 natürlich Chris Norman als Leadsänger und Gitarrist mit dabei. You left Smokie, I think, in 1986 and started going solo, even though you were doing a few solo songs before. I remember one with Susie Quattro back in 1978, which was called Stumble In. But you left the band. It was really successful. You launched your solo career, and that one with a bang, because of course we're talking about Midnight Lady. It became a massive hit throughout Europe. I think #1 in Germany for 6 weeks, almost 1 million records in this country alone. How did you guys meet? I mean, we all know it was done by Dieter Bohlen back then, but I think in England nobody really had heard of him back in the 80s, including you?
Including me, yeah. That was one of those chance things that happens in this business. Most things happen by chance, I think. As you talked about Suzi Quatro, that record stumbling in, that was a chance thing. You know, we were just at a party after an awards ceremony and got up and started singing together, and then from that came that record.
Yeah. I just played the song in the background for the audience.
Yeah? Is it on now? So anyway,
there it is.
Yeah, the thing with Dieter Bohlen was we were published by a company in Hamburg. And I went for a meeting, well, we all did, the whole group went for a meeting with the managing director from this company, and while we were there talking about songs and stuff, he said, I just have to call a guy who's a big fan of yours.
Okay.
He's a guy who's in this thing called Modern Talking. And we said, Modern what? Because we never heard of that. And they said, he's really big, he's I think 5 number ones at the time. So he rang and he said something, and about 20 minutes later this guy walks into the thing, and so it's Dieter Bohlen, and he wanted to meet us. So hi, how you doing? We sat around talking for a bit, and that was it, really. And then I went back to England a few days later. I got a phone call and said, Dieter Bohlen would like to know if you'd like to sing this song, which is going to be on this TV movie called Tatort.
Yeah.
And he's written this song called Midnight Lady, and he'd love for you to sing it. And I was kind of thinking about solo things anyway at that time, and I said, yeah, okay. So I went over, and about a week later, and they gave me a cassette tape, because they'd only just finished recording the backing of it, with him singing it. And I went, and that was in the evening, and I listened to it when I went to my hotel room. And the next day I was in the studio at midday singing it, and I hadn't even heard it before, you know. And that was all I had to do, really. I just walked in, sang the song. I think we'd run through it twice, and I sang it, but I was out.
And that became a massive hit.
And then it was a big hit. So that's
Germany,
how that,
in Austria, and in Switzerland.
Yeah, that's how it came about.
Wow,
and
what a story. Even though he used a lot of synthesizers back then.
Yeah.
Whereas you always preferred the real McCoy guitars and drums, but it did work out in the end. I think you did two songs for the Tatort. The second one I think was Broken Heroes. That was a few years after.
Yeah.
But you continue to release countless hits, and you're actually being one of the few artists actually on YouTube whose videos can extend 10 million views per clip. It must have been, and it still is, I think, an amazing time for you doing what you love so much, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's very fortunate if you can do what you like.
Yeah.
I always liked music anyway. I was always a passion to make music and to sing and to do all that. And, you know, we went from just a bunch of kids at school who wanted to play together and made a group. And to make that into a career and to be still doing it all this time later, it's just lucky, you know, really. And just...
Da gibt es die ganze Story nochmal von Chris Norman, und auch alle großen Videos sind nochmal für euch hier aufbereitet. Vielen, vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen. Wir sind natürlich morgen wieder da. 17:30 Uhr geht's los mit dem Sport, mit Klickblick und live. Und auch einen schönen Abend und viel Spaß hier im Programm bei NRW TV. Macht's gut, danke. Thanks a lot, Chris Norman.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
You understand all romance to start talking